Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we're going to learn how to use live coding. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so live coding lets us compile our project without exiting the editor and without using Visual Studio. We can use it by clicking on this button right here in the bottom panel. Just make sure that you have it enabled. Click on this three-dot menu next to the button and make sure that Enable Live Coding is checked. And after that, we can click on this button to start it. But first of all, let's switch over to Visual Studio and make a code change so that we have something to compile. I'm simply going to change these numbers to text by saying first, second, and third. Then we can save this file, get back into the editor, and click on live coding. This window is going to pop up, and if it's successful, it's going to say live coding succeeded in the editor, and also in this window, it's also going to say successfully linked patch. Once that's done, you can minimize this or exit out of it, and we can play the game, and you will see that inside of the output log, the changes we made are in effect. So it's that simple. This is all you need to do to make a change to your source code, use live coding to compile it, and then you're good to go. That being said, we have some rules of thumb that go with using live coding because in some cases you might run into issues. So first of all, live coding is best used when you're making changes to the C++ files. If you're making changes to the header file, it's a good idea to compile from Visual Studio. Does that mean live coding wouldn't work if you make header file changes? No, it would still work. But if you're making too many of them, at some point, things might start behaving in a weird way and you might not really understand what's going on. So as a rule of thumb, it's a good idea to compile from Visual Studio using Rebuild if you're making too many header file changes. So that's the first rule. The second one is going to be compiling from Visual Studio at the start or at the end of your work session. So let's say that I was developing something and I'm using live coding a bunch of times. At the end of my work session, I should recompile from Visual Studio, or at the start of my next work session, I should definitely recompile from Visual Studio. So those are some rules of thumb for you to memorize. Like I said, if you're making a header file change, compile from Visual Studio, and at the start or at the end of your work session, definitely compile from Visual Studio, and after that you can just go ahead and use live coding as many times as you want. Lastly, let me demonstrate what it looks like to make a mistake here. So let's say that we forgot to put these parentheses and the semicolon. I'm just going to get rid of them, save the file, and try to run live coding. So instead of the usual green message, we're getting this red build failed. That means something went wrong. And inside of this log message, Unreal is going to tell us what went wrong. So if we scroll to the right side, you can see that it's telling us inside of movingplatform.cpp on line 23, the UE log is missing the terminating parentheses. So it's giving us an idea of what went wrong. After taking a look at this, we can go back into Visual Studio. We can go to line 23 as described in the error message, and we can see that indeed we are missing those parentheses. Visual Studio is also being helpful, and it's displaying this line with this red squiggly line and giving us a message about the problem here. Now we can go ahead and put the parentheses and the semicolon back there, save this, and run live coding again, and this time it's going to work. So whenever you get an error, you can take a look at the log message here that Unreal gave you to try to understand what went wrong. Take a look at Visual Studio, make sure that all of the syntax is the same as mine. And if all else fails, you can simply copy and paste all of this log and share it as a question, and we're going to take a look at it and help you out. So that is how to address a compilation error in live coding. And finally, as a challenge for you, you can go ahead and make the same changes as me, run live coding, and test this out. So that is going to be it for this lecture. Now that we can use live coding, we can compile our project much faster, which is going to make it easier for us to develop the game. Let's continue in the next lecture.